You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as t-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. All major credit cards are accepted to make your shopping experience easy and convenient. So once again, click on the store tab on www.israelsportsradio.com.
Live from Studio C at the Cherry Hill campus for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, it's Sports Talk with the Sports.
Down goes Frazier. He scores! High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk, All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as The Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. As always, if you want to chime in on the conversation, 856-330-4749, or send me a tweet at The Yossi G, that's TheYossig. Or you could always send me a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk. The New York Giants opened up training camp yesterday. The Jets opened up training camp today. The Philadelphia Eagles are opening up training camp tomorrow. It seems like the sport we all love to tackle in the fall and going into the winter keeps us warm a little bit and on those cold Sunday nights. It's starting. It's here. I can feel it. I can taste it in my blood. It is amazing, this feeling that I'm having. The NFL training camp. It's just training camp, but it means that we are just that much closer to the actual start of the 2014 football season. It's beautiful. With that in mind, we're going to go through a couple of things. Of course, I'm going to go through the Jets, break down the team in terms of why I think the Jets actually didn't go forward at all in the offseason, why they, at best, took a step sideways. The Giants, why I think that they have an opportunity to make a wild card slot at the very least. And, of course, we're going to have a little later on from Redskins247.com columnist Scott Kennedy will be joining me talking about the NFC East, the Giants, the Redskins, and the Eagles, because at the end of the day, we don't really need that much to talk about the Cowboys, because really it's the Alice Cowboys, because there's no D in Dallas. But again, 856-330-4749 if you want to hop in here, talk a little bit football right now. We have with the Jets, and it's something that everybody must keep in mind here, because the NBA Finals are gone, Stanley Cup Finals are long gone, the NBA Draft is gone, the World Cup is over, and more than half of baseball season has come and gone. The baseball All-Star Game, Derek Jeter's last All-Star Game, and everything that went into that have come and has passed us. And now that all of this and various other distractions are in the books, of course, the real sports season, like I mentioned, is about to begin. That is the NFL. But for the Jets, their training camp, of course, opens up. Actually, I take that back. The Jets' training camp opened up yesterday, so they've already had a couple hours. Today was really the first practice, is what I was going after. But nonetheless, when you look at the New York Jets, is there any type of a player that really stands out to you? Is there any type of a player that is really going to garner any sort of controversy? I mean, we don't really have a Tebow type of polarizing player on the team. There's not really any type of quarterback controversy. There's no new shotgun marriages between Woody Johnson and Rex Ryan. There's no TV cameras. There's nothing. So what's there to talk about? I'll tell you what there's to talk about. There's plenty of things. First things first is the C word. I'm not talking about complete passes. I'm not talking about coronary arteries, which is kind of how I feel every time the Jets play and they make a game go down to the wire. So we're not talking about those C words. I'm talking about the C word, also known as competition. That's right. John Itzig, the GM, now is the second year as the GM for the New York Jets. It's been the calling card of his since his arrival into Florham Park, into Gang Greenland. It's if competition doesn't concern every single GM in the league, if not all sports, but still, Itzig implies that it did not exist in the New York Jets camp. And once he showed up, that was about to change. Or so we thought. Because on offense, there's more skilled players in every position than there have been in a bunch of years, and running backs seem to be particularly in a good place with solid depth, both now with Chris Johnson in the mix. I think it's going to come down to the ability for Chris Johnson to stay healthy and show that he still has some juice left in those legs that ran for more than 2,000 yards 6 years ago, which I firmly believe is still giving him those contracts that he's still gotten throughout the years since 2009, 2008, when he was a rushing yards machine. I also hope that Bilal Powell doesn't get too buried deep in the bench because he's still young and he's got a lot of value, I think, for this team. And Darryl Richardson, bringing him in, signing him in, bringing him into the fold, it's a great insurance policy to have 4 running backs that can really contribute to the team. The wide receiver position is the most interesting because, yeah, there's more talent there now than there has been in a long time. But when you look at the talent that's really on the wide receiver position, it doesn't seem to be really that truthful that there's been more talent now than there's been in a long time. Because take a look at it closely, right? It's kind of gave a little bit more money to Eric Decker than probably he should have. But okay, nonetheless, there's a lot of white noise about whether or not Eric Decker's a true number 1 wide receiver, or he just happened to have been on a really good team with a really good quarterback known as Peyton Manning the last couple seasons. But could anybody tell me who the number 1 wide receiver on last year's Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks was? Golden Tate? I mean, seriously? They didn't have a number 1 wide receiver last year on the Seattle Seahawks. It was a team that led by defense and did enough on offense to win the Super Bowl. Still, nonetheless, Derek Carr is still a solid upgrade over Santonio Holmes, and he and Geno Smith probably will be BFFs for a bunch of seasons. But after that, you have Jeremy Curley, David Nelson, Steven I Can't Catch Bloody Thing Hill, and Greg Salas, and of course the newly signed Jacoby Ford. They're all going to be battling for playing time and roster spots with the 3 wideouts that it's drafted. But the reality is, it's from a pure talent perspective, there's no reason to believe that Jeremy Curley, David Nelson, Hill, and Salas, and the 1 rookie won't be the best 5 receivers behind Eric Decker. Now, that being the case, how much different is that from last year? Every solid receiver added to the decent so-so group is hardly the type of competition that's going to keep Bill Belichick and Tom Brady up late at night. They have a really solid wide receiver in Eric Decker. There's no one who can deny that. He's a very solid wide receiver. Number 2, borderline number 1. But then a bunch of so-sos behind him? Is that really the offensive whiteout threat that you thought you were going to keep people in your division up late at night with? Now, if that's not enough, how about this for size? Okay. Little question for everybody. Trivia time. If you know what the answer is before I say it, feel free to call in. Let me know what the answer is to this trivia question. The phone number here again is 856-330-4749. Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the SCG Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. What do Ben Ilana, Dakota Dozier, Ode Abushi, Dalton Friedman, and Patrick Ford all have in common? They all have no experience in the NFL, and they're the backups for the Jets' offensive line. There's no competition here. When you add that to the starting guard tandem of Willie Colon and Brian Winters, that is the really scary to the point where you have the potential to derail an entire season and probably Rex's career as the Jets sideline boss because your backups never played before. I don't get it. Itzik got several options to fill these gaps, and he didn't. Instead of beginning a new paragraph right now with me talking and a new chapter dissecting the Jets' offense, the next part of it, of course, is the tight ends. I'm not going to begin a new chapter. Just continue on. I'm not going to take a break. We're going to continue going. Because this is getting me so riled up where he didn't go ahead and fill in a gap where behind Willie Colon and Brian Winters with people who actually played before in the NFL. There isn't a tight end on the roster who can adequately help the aforementioned, the porous offensive line that the Jets have. Who, Jay Samaro? Jeff Cumberland? I mean, they're oversized receivers. But you really going to tell me that you can rely on either of them to be in an inline tight end? The closest blocking tight end the Jets have is Zach Sudfield. Again, how different is that from last year when you didn't have a tight end who could actually block? Now on defense, similar to last year. Now, of course, you have to love Rex Ryan and his defensive mind because that's pretty much the reason why the Jets finished 8-8 last year. And the Jets' defensive line is one of the best in the league. And, of course, who wouldn't love to have one of the best defensive lines in the league? However, saying that the Jets' front seven is the core of the team is a bit of a stretch because I don't really look at the linebackers as being elite. They're not elite. Do you know if Antoine Barnes is going to come back healthy? It doesn't look good so far. Do you think Calvin Pace is going to take another sip of that fountain of youth that he found last year? What about Quentin Coples? Can he play to his potential, finally? I believe that Coples he's been a little bit unfairly judged so far, but perhaps that's because he's had the misfortune of being drafted between Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson. Quentin was he was unblockable during the preseason, then he got hurt. By the end of last year, he was playing really well, but then if he stayed healthy, he can really be a dangerous part of this defense. Now, when you look at how Couples has played, he was double teamed a heck of a lot more than a lot of his other teammates. I mean, Calvin Pace was double teamed it seemed to me Calvin Pace was double teamed maybe once a game. And as a result, Pace is a little older, but he's smart and he's savvy enough to collect 10.5 sacks. But let's not forget that the reason why Pace is able to collect 10.5 sacks is because Quentin Couples was seemingly always double teamed. If that's then the case, that Couples demands a double team, he has to figure out a way of getting around that double team, of being able to go through it. Because you have guys in the league who always were double teamed and always continue to be double teamed, yet they somehow find a way of getting to the quarterback, of stopping the run behind the line. Now, you want to move into the backfield. This is really the problem for the Jets. Outside of everything, forget the quarterback situation, forget the running back situation, forget the wide receiver situation, forget the front line situation, forget the linebacker situation, forget special teams. The biggest issue with the New York Jets is the cornerbacks, because D. Milner, now he's being relied on to be the number one cornerback. Calvin Pryor, he's a rookie. When Calvin Pryor was drafted, I think the big guy who was the most excited about everything was Milner, that they didn't take another cornerback. And what does he do? He shows up to OTAs overweight, out of shape, looks like he add another 10, 12 pounds. Are you kidding me? You're the number one cornerback who had a terrible rookie year. You're out of shape, and there's no one else on the roster to turn to for help. What the heck is going on in Florham Park? What the heck is going on with the New York Jets defense, and specifically their number one cornerback, D. Milner? Now, obviously, Rex has been glowing about the third-round pick of Dexter McDougal, but we all know he's not starting the season. I mean, come on. Rex is going to face Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford with Megatron and Golden Tate and Eric Ebron, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady in the first couple weeks of the season. And you tell me, as somebody who enjoys watching Jets games to a degree, that Dean Milner is your number one go-to guy and he's supposed to stop this attack? That he's supposed to stop the onslaught? He's supposed to stop these waves of quarterbacks who actually can throw the football? I think you're nuts. And I think the Jets have a lot of problems ahead of them and a big-time issue that they must correct before the first snap of the real season actually begins. Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. I'll be right back. When I come back here, don't go away, because I have a little bit more breakdown. NFC East, NFL, Redskins, Eagles, Giants.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back, Sports Talk Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted at the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Right now, joining me is columnist for Redskins247.com and also an avid Redskins fan who puts together Redskins fans meetup groups, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are you?
Yossi, I'm fine. How are you today?
Thank God, very well. So, Scott, let's straight off the bat, the Redskins have had a lot of issues over the last year and a half, 2 seasons. Of course, most notably RG3, the knee injury, then, of course, the Shanahan conundrum. But now they seem to have turned a new leaf. They brought in Deshaun Jackson, arguably the NFL's biggest deep threat in the offseason. What moves other than Deshaun has the team done to help propel them forward from their disastrous year last year?
Well, hopefully Deshaun Jackson will be an excellent addition to the team and his contribution to their passing game. But and of course the new coach, Jay Gruden, is a rookie coach. Of course, this is brand new for him. This is new territory for him. So from what I've heard so far in training camp and practices, he's very optimistic about how things are going so far, and hopefully it will stay that way. But the one thing that has concerned me the most, even when the new additions and the adjustments that they make, is just the way the organization itself and its management. That's what has been my biggest concern as to the success and or lack thereof of this team.
And how do you see the Redskins going forward, possibly making amends for some of the moves that they've made in the last decade or so?
I just would like to believe that. I was thinking with Dan Snyder, I know you might remember at the end of the 2012 season, the Redskins won the NFC East. But I don't know if you remember, right after they had won the division, Mike Shanahan was getting ready to pack his bags and leave his post as coach of the Redskins.
Right.
And the reason why he was going to do that was because he felt that Dan Snyder was utilizing too much favoritism towards RG3, and Shanahan felt like that kind of situation wasn't conducive for a winning team. And I can understand that. And I just think with any owner, you need to kind of step back and let the coach and the coaching staff do their job. And the distractions that were going on off the field seem to, you can argue all you want that, okay, that's not going to really cause a problem on the field, but it does. I think it has. And that proved itself very much so last season.
Certainly, it certainly can have an adverse effect on players. And when you talk about off-field issues, Deshaun Jackson seemingly left and was thrown out. Some people will argue departed Philadelphia amid a cloud of suspicion as to what the real reason was why he no longer was the favorite child of Chip Kelly. And a lot of people pointed to potentially or possibly the off-field issues that Deshaun Jackson brought to the table, not necessarily that he had, but the potentiality for it. Now he's in Washington, he's on the Redskins, he is the big threat for the team. What is his impact going to be on RG3 and on the Redskins or as an organization, especially when you consider a lot of the questionable characters that he holds close to him?
Well, I hope that none of those off-the-field issues that he has will affect his play, and he'll continue where he left off in Philadelphia with he had an excellent season. His last season with the Eagles, he did very well. And I'd like to think he'll continue to do that in Washington. And with a quarterback like RG3, I'd like to think the combination quarterback and receiver will be a pretty big threat to opposing teams. I like to think that will make a difference this upcoming season.
Sure.
So
with regards to you mentioning as well with owners not really knowing their place on the football team, so to speak, there's another owner that in the NFC East that seemingly has had issues with this, and that is Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
You mentioned Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder. It's interesting. Both of them have a lot of similarities as far as how they manage their teams. I just think that, well, let's just say that money and high-profile players and a lot of talent, they only work but so well to get a winner as long as things are managed well, as long as there's chemistry among players.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, and if you have that chemistry, take away all the off-the-field distractions, all the distractions in general, all the divisions among the teammates, then those have all been issues in the past with the Redskins. You take those things away, and yes, you can have a winning team. But I think some people, what some people may overlook here is that, you think of all the talent, all the good players that have been brought in here and have been put on this team, and people think that, okay, we've got a dream team here. But then you have to also look at something else. You have to look at all the other controversies, all the other problems, and it's that invisible. So I guess you could say it's invisible, but it shows itself in its own way. As far as the team doesn't do well on the field, and because those kinds the distractions and the problems that are going on within the team, among the team, do show themselves on the field in the form of not very good play, losing games.
100%. I mean, we just had over the last 24 hours a bunch of different news throughout the NFL. Justin Blackmon being arrested for marijuana possession, Ray Rice probably getting a 2-game suspension, and Sidney Rice retiring because of concussion. So those are all issues that are going to affect their respective teams, and certainly when you have guys like Dan Snyder and like Jerry Jones who like to be those type of owners who are hands-on more so than leaving, the people who they hire to run the team to actually run the team, more often than not, those teams tend to not be as successful as the owners portray them that they could be. One of the teams that I look at and I really see how in the NFC East, and of course talking here with Redskins 247.com columnist Scott Kennedy, one of these teams that I find that actually the ownership takes a step back is the New York Giants. The ownership there, the Mara and Tisch families, they've really taken a stake. I can't remember the last time I actually heard either of anybody in the ownership actually doing or saying something that was controversial. It's always, look, we hire the people that we hire in those positions of general manager, coach, team president, and whatnot. They're there to do their job. That's why we hire them. And that's why we pay them. And what happens, you have a team like that. The Giants, they may not be the biggest threat in the regular season, but the 2 seasons that they won the Super Bowl, they beat arguably the best team of our generation, the New England Patriots. So there is certainly something to say about having ownership take a back seat. And really, that's just what it is. And that's, for me, from where I stand, that's where I see a failure in Washington and in Dallas.
Yeah, and until that changes, I mean, I'm trying not to paint a pessimistic picture here. I'm just, people might call me a pessimist about this situation, but I'm also a realist. Until or unless Dan Snyder, whether it be Dan Snyder or any owner, unless they can take a step back and not be so hands-on, until they're willing to do something like that, I don't know if there's going to be any significant change in Washington. I'm trying to be optimistic about the new coaching staff coming in, and we have a new attitude, and all that. But what worries me is that through all that, Snyder himself hasn't changed the way he is. And unless he does, I'm afraid, I'm concerned that we're going to see a repeat of what's been going on with him ever since he took over ownership of this team in 1999. And keep in mind that ever since, he's owned this team for 14, 15 years, and during that time, we've only seen 4 playoff appearances and, of course, no Super Bowl. And I just I want to believe that things will be different this upcoming season, but forgive me for being a doubting Thomas unless I see I'm going to have to wait until the season starts in order to really, have a positive attitude about what's going to happen. It's kind of a wait and see thing. But I'll definitely try and keep my, keep a good attitude about this and just hope for the best and hope that Jay Gruden will have some success in Washington. I'd like to think he will. I wish him the best.
Well, certainly time will tell with the Redskins and also, of course, the Cowboys and what happens with them. And the Giants, look, they started off last year 0-6. They finished off the season going 7-3. There are a lot of changes on that team as well. Right now, of course, Redskins 24/7.com columnist Scott Kennedy joining me here on Sports Talk with Sports Rabbi and simulcasted as the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Lastly, before I let you go, the Eagles won the division last year in what a lot of people thought was the Chip Kelly coming out party. But a lot of people also figured that, hey, this is the first time that Chip Kelly's in the league in the NFL. He got a little lucky. What are your thoughts on the Eagles repeating as division champions and possibly going a little farther than the wild card weekend knockout?
Well, I think the Eagles could have just as much success this season as they did last season, even without Deshaun Jackson. If Deshaun Jackson was becoming that big of a distraction in Philadelphia and Chip Kelly felt the need to let him go, then, I don't know all the details, but Chip Kelly had his reasons for letting Deshaun go, and it will be interesting to see what happens with the Eagles this upcoming season without Deshaun Jackson, but I just have this feeling that they'll still have success. They'll still be contenders in the NFC East.
I think that a lot of people here in Philadelphia feel that way, and there's kind of been this, really people taking a side. Either they're with Chip or they're the wait and see types right now. I don't think there's a lot of people as many people as there was last year who were against Chip Kelly because they see what he could do, at least for one season. So you can't knock success, especially in a town like Philadelphia, which is very similar to that of Washington in terms of fandom and how really intense they are and how much they want their team to win and how looking forward to they are to seeing their team be victorious. But certainly what I find with Chip Kelly and how he runs his team is there is also a little bit of what I feel in the NFL is this old school mentality, this old school thought as to how a team should be run. And in comes this chipper young coach, and he really throws cold water, so to speak, on all their faces. And that's a little bit of a reason why I feel there's not a lot of love or as much love to Chip Kelly as there possibly should be.
But he has one game. He did win the division for the Eagles. He brought the division title. You know, old school you mentioned. I really wish I would see more of that today. I kind of miss that because I think the old school way. I think about Joe Gibbs. I think about, what he did for the Redskins during his first tenure, and I guess you could say I'm an old school kind of person. I'm not ashamed to admit that, but I think a lot of those old school mentalities could be more. They could still be successful today, and you may not be the most popular person because of it, but you know what? You can't please everybody.
Certainly you can't. That is definitely one of those things in the NFL as to what it stands for. It is the no fun league, and it's not for long as well. So you got to take what you're given and run with it. Scott Kennedy, columnist for Redskins247.com, and of course the Redskins fan leader for Meetup.com, where all Redskins fans can get together. Scott, thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Yossi.
Sure thing. Until next time on IsraelSportsRadio.com, and of course on Sports Talk, the Sports Rabbi on AllNoiseRadio.com. We look forward to talking to you at some point during the season.
Okay.
Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit NBA, get some of your thoughts on what's going on with the Knicks, and of course, some hockey action, or rather, hockey in action.
Honey, again you're sitting here sulking?
I hate my job and I don't know what to do to change it.
Get off the couch and go check out the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting? What's that? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting offers a career and lifestyle change through a broadcasting experience you won't ever forget. Log on to GoCSB.com to find out how a career in broadcasting is for you and not just the people you see on TV or hear on the radio. CSB focuses on many aspects of real-world broadcasting, and their knowledgeable instructors teach you through a hands-on approach so you're in the studio in no time. To find out how CSB can help you work in an industry you love, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out online at GoCSB.com. Why work 50 weeks a year for a 2-week vacation when you can enjoy your job every day? Don't just sit there. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Thanks, CSB.
All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.
SportsRadio.com. As always, you can chime in on the conversation, 856-330-4749. You can also send me a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi, or a tweet on Twitter, at the Yossi, TheYossig. Let me know what is on your mind. So I want to talk about, of course, this the LeBron James thing. You know, it's a little bit kind of old on our minds and stuff, but one of the things that kind of goes by the wayside is, LeBron James going home, it's good for the Cavaliers, but how good really is it for Cleveland? When you look at the city of Cleveland, look at the bottom line of the city of Cleveland, Ohio. It's a very hard-working, blue-collar type of a town, type of a city. And when you look at the Cavs' bottom line, the Cleveland Cavaliers, their bottom line is going to increase. They're going to have more revenue. They're going to have more tuchuses in the seats. They're going to have more people buying hot dogs and overpriced drinks. But where does that money come from? It's not like you have in Miami all these very, very wealthy people who have second homes there, who are bandwagon fans. Oh, LeBron James is on our team. Let's go to the game. We're in a place like Cleveland where people may not be as wealthy as those in Miami. Where does the bottom line, it's going to come out from somewhere else. If the Cavaliers' bottom line will increase, will inflate itself a little bit by LeBron being in Cleveland, then it's obviously going to come out from somewhere else. So when you look at the NBC affiliate in Cleveland, WKYC, they published a report that, according to them, LeBron's value to the city of Cleveland is between $50 and $80 million a year the first time that he played there. Now, add in that the Cavs are going to have in roughly $20 million new in revenue. It's got to come from somewhere. You're going to have, let's say, about 100,000 more fans at the game now that LeBron is there. But those 100,000 fans would have been going somewhere else in Cleveland had LeBron not signed up back to go to the Cavaliers. Instead of going out to dinner or going to the Indians games or the Browns games or perhaps going to a nightclub or the theater, they're going to go to the Cavs. And guess what? All those gains to the Cavs are losses for other businesses in the local area. 856-330-4749. Is it really a good business sense for the city of Cleveland that their favorite son, LeBron, is back home? Is that really going to be a positive thing for Cleveland? I mean, the potential negative impact doesn't stop in downtown Cleveland, where you would have, instead of people going to the theater, they're going to the Cavs game to watch LeBron's theatrical performances on the hardwood. Even businesses like restaurants in Cleveland suburbs are going to feel the pinch of LeBron, because locals, instead of going and taking their disposable income to a nice restaurant with their family, they're going to go flock back to Quicken Loans Arena downtown with their kids, with their wife, with their girlfriend, whoever it is. They're going to go to Quicken Loans Arena and spend their hard-earned money there, not at a nice restaurant, not at the theater, not at the movies, not at a Browns game, not at an Indians game, not going to a nightclub or anything of that nature. No. When you have the idea that LeBron James is coming home, and yes, there are those who say that it means it's going to mean almost $500 million in revenue to the city and the surrounding areas because they're going to create new jobs because of the renewed interest in the Cavaliers. But that isn't the bottom line here. The bottom line is, I think it's really on the flip side, is the realistic attitude that people are going to have, and they're going to say, look, we can't go out to that restaurant once a month anymore because we want to go watch LeBron James. And instead of going out to the restaurant once a month, they're going to go to Quicken Loans Arena, and guess what? They'll eat, they'll spend, they'll drink, they'll have a good time there instead of going to the restaurant or the theater or somewhere else. LeBron James coming home to Cleveland is good for the Cavaliers. It's great for the Cavaliers. But how good really is it for Cleveland, the city of Cleveland? Perhaps not so good. 856-330-4749, at the Yossi G on Twitter, or on Facebook as Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. I wanted to play something that was kind of neat. I thought this was pretty cool. Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio, they had Frank Caliendo doing his take of LeBron James' letter discussing his return to Cleveland. Take a listen.
Before anyone ever cared where I would play basketball, I was a kid from Northeast Ohio. It's where I walked. It's where I ran. It's where I cried. It's where I bled. It holds a special place in my heart. People there have seen me grow up. I sometimes feel like I'm their son. Their passion can be overwhelming, but it drives me. I want to give them hope when I can. I want to inspire them when I can. My relationship with Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball. I didn't realize that 4 years ago. I do now. Remember when I was sitting up there at the Boys and Girls Club in 2010? I was thinking, this is really tough. I could feel it. I was leaving something I'd spent a long time creating. If I had to do it all over again, I'd obviously do things differently. But I'd still have left. Miami for me has been almost like college for other kids. This past 4 years helped raise me into who I am. I became a better player and a better man. I learned from a franchise that had been where I wanted to go. I will always think of Miami as my second home. Without the experiences I had there, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. We actually ran out of music. I'm not promising a championship. I know how hard that is to deliver. We're not ready to right now, no way. Of course, I want to win next year, but I'm realistic. It will be a long process, much longer than it was in 2010. My patience will get tested. I know that. I'm going into a situation with a young team and a new coach. I will be the old head. But I get a thrill out of bringing a group together and helping them reach a place they didn't know they could go. I see myself as a mentor now, and I'm excited to lead some of these talented young guys. In Northeast Ohio, nothing is given. Everything is earned. You work for what you have. I'm ready to accept the challenge. I'm coming home.
That was Frank Caliendo doing his best Morgan Freeman interpretation through the Shawshank Redemption movie of LeBron James' letter discussing his return to Cleveland. I thought that was amazing. Of course, the laughter and the sniffling in the background was Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick for Mike and Mike ESPN Radio, courtesy of them that audio. But I thought that was pretty cool because when you read the letter, when you read the letter originally when LeBron James said he was going home, that kind of is how I had it in my mind, at least. I don't know about you. Of course, we want to discuss at 856-330-4749 or at the Yossi G on Twitter. I'm getting a tweet in here from Jeremy. He said that when he first read it, he thought Morgan Freeman all the way, voice of God, best ever. And that's really that's how I feel as well, because when you read something like that, something so powerful, something so jaw-dropping, holding your breath for, and then suddenly it happens. For a situation of that magnitude, you obviously expect, as we just read from Jeremy, that it's the voice of God, kind of. That's what Morgan Freeman has come to be known as in terms of the voiceover world. And Frank Caliendo can do it probably sometimes even better than the people themselves can do it. Frank Caliendo, master of voices, definitely an awesome thing to hear with regards to LeBron James and his return to Cleveland. Now, last thing before, of course, we head to commercial break. Joel Embiid, 76ers new center, probably won't be playing for the 76ers for a couple months, and possibly, may not even be part of the team for this season. Well, here's the thing. Joel Embiid's surgeon, Richard Ferkel, is very optimistic about his future, about Embiid's future. Because we all heard what happened when Ferkel went up to the podium, just before the NBA draft and gave his diagnosis about Joel Embiid, and that really changed the landscape for the draft. Instead of Embiid going to the Cavs as the number one pick, it was Andrew Wiggins instead, and then of course Jabari Parker, likely instead of going to the 76ers, went to the Milwaukee Bucks, so the 76ers were left with Joel Embiid. Now, a lot of people felt that, they were probably stuck with Joel Embiid after all was said and done, because really, who else were they going to take? But when you read what Ferkel wrote about the surgery and how he looks at Embiid and the type of injury that Embiid had and the surgery and the post-op and everything as such, basically what he's saying is that not only did Sam Hinkie did a good job by taking Embiid where he took him, number 3, but the upside for Embiid is so large. We've come a long way since the leg and foot problems cutting the careers of big men short, such as Bill Walton, Sam Bowie, Yao Ming, Greg Oden. So we understand why teams were scared to take Embiid. The top two teams, the Bucks and the Cavs and the Bucks in that order, 1 and 2, were scared to take Embiid because there was a precedent for taking a big man with a leg history issue, a foot injury history issue, as so high, when there are other options, sort of a little bit more surer options than, in this case, Embiid. And you can't fault the other teams for taking who they took because they wanted to go the sure route. And look at the Cavs. I mean, right now they're trying to sign Andrew Wiggins and trade him in a month to the T-Wolves so they can get Kevin Love to help bolster that, the front court for them so they can make a run at an NBA title with LeBron. Can't fault them for that. Can't fault the Bucks for wanting to take Jabari Parker because he's a proven scorer. He can play right now. You don't want to take a chance with Embiid, but the Sixers, they have that luxury of time, and Nerlens Noel, he sat out the whole season last year. He's coming back off, he's a rookie now. He's coming back off of surgery, off of his injury. Embiid coming off of his injury, I think it would be smart for Sam Hinkie even to sit Embiid for the whole season, because where are you running to? You're probably not making the playoffs this year. You have the potentiality here for a great player to emerge in Embiid. Cameroon didn't play basketball for most of his life, played only one season of college ball at Kansas. He's 20 years old. He went to the best specialist to do the operation in the world, or at least that I know of, in the United States. So why not? Sit him, leave him be. 1 season less of stress. You don't have to rush him back. And you really can let him rehab at his leisure. And then next season, have him come in full steam ahead. Joel Embiid turned his body and basketball life over to Richard Ferkel, and Joel Embiid's mind was at ease. Now I think that after the operation happened and the surgery and the post-op and now the rehab, I think everybody else's mind should be at ease as well. Sports Talk Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, 856-330-4749. Simulcasted as the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. I'll be right back. When I come back after the short commercial break, we'll wrap up the show with your chimes, your phone calls. We'll talk a little bit NHL, maybe some free agency winners and losers up to this point in the NBA. And, of course, can the Mets, the big question in the Big Apple, can the Mets take over the city of New York in its baseball realm? Can they grab the mantle? Here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the SCG Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. I'll be right back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Of course, if you want to get in on the conversation, 856-330-4749, or send me a tweet at the Yossi G, or a Facebook message at facebook.com and search for Sports Talk. Couple of chimes in here, of course. Let's see, where should we go first? Got John from Center City, Philadelphia. He says, what do I think is going to happen with Joel Embiid playing with the Sixers down the road? I said, look, Joel Embiid's going to play. I think he has the potential to be a very, very successful big man in the league, and I think that the Sixers, because they have the luxury of taking their time, Brett Brown has done a very good job with the team, I think, thus far, and I think it's a young team, a hungry team, and I believe that with the experience that they had last year, plus Nerlens Noel coming in, I think that they have the opportunity for a really good thing here in Philadelphia. Not this year, probably not next year either, but in 5 years' time from now, I think you're going to look at a very, very solid team that has a lot of good things going forward. And I firmly believe that Joel, or as one of my friends likes to call him, Yoeli Embiid, is going to be one of those key cogs to the 76ers, the future of the 76ers. We got another chime right here. Actually, this is about the NHL. This is, who do you think is the sports rabbi? This is coming from Nachum in New York. The sports rabbi, who do you think are the top 5 NHL players from New York State? What's actually funny, Nachum, because I'm actually going to, I'll get to the top 5 in just a moment, but I want to get to first, we'll go through the top 10. Now, you have this idea that hockey is from Canada, the best international imports are from Russia, and then you also have the great states of Minnesota that produces wonderful hockey players. Except that there are some hockey players in the NHL that are proving the great, wonderful states of New York and New Jersey are not necessarily the types of places that most people would think of that it breeds hockey superstars, hockey players, NHL quality players. Well, guess what? You had Sonny Milano. He's from Massapequa. He was drafted by Columbus in this year's first round, and there are a number of young players from the New York, New Jersey area who could find themselves in NHL lineups in the coming years. So I went through with a buddy of mine, Dan Friedman, actually gave me the idea. I don't agree with a lot of the players where he puts players in lists them in their specific places. Although I will agree on his 4 out of his top 5. I won't necessarily agree with all the positioning that he put him on, but still, this is from Dan Friedman, CBS New York, and he put out this column. Good buddy of mine, good buddy of the program, our NHL insider here with the Islanders, and of course with all things hockey, all things NHL for Sports Talk, the Sports Rabbi. He has like this: Rob Scuderi, from Syosset, New York. Now remember, Scuderi has been part of multiple Cup winners. He won the Cup in Pittsburgh and with the Kings. He's a very, very good quality blue liner, defenseman. He's got a good defensive ability. I think number 10 is fine. Eric Cole, I think, is a little low. Even though his best playing days are behind him, I still believe that he has his ability as a forward should not be questioned. He's a veteran presence. He does have a lot of mileage on him, but still, I look at Eric Cole, and certainly you're going to tell me that Brian Giunta is better than Eric Cole or more, on this list. It's debatable. That said, Brian Giunta, Rochester, New York, is another veteran forward who's also past his prime. I think he's a little past more past his prime than Eric Cole is. Nonetheless, it wasn't too long ago that Brian was a respectable point producer, even despite his lack of size, so to speak, among NHL circles. Ryan Callahan at number 7, I think, is very much, he should be in the top 5. From Rochester, New York, he is the former Rangers captain. He certainly wears his heart on his sleeve everywhere he plays, no matter the game, no matter the who they're playing against, and there's no reason to expect anything different from him in Tampa, and certainly he's delivered thus far for the Lightning. Dustin Brown, are you kidding me? Only putting him at 6. I think he also could crack the top 5. Nonetheless, I guess we'll keep him at 6 for the meantime. He's a captain for the Kings, won 2 Stanley Cups. He's a physical presence on the ice. He's a really good leader for the Kings as well in the locker room, and he is capable of putting up points. He is from Ithaca, New York. Jimmy Howard, Ogdensburg, New York. People might not realize that he's a New Yorker, but nonetheless, he's one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL for the Red Wings. He's done an excellent job in Detroit the last couple seasons and certainly gets very deserving of the number 5 slot. Bobby Ryan from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, right here in the area where the station where I'm broadcasting from. He hasn't been as productive since the trade to Ottawa as far as talent goes, but he is still off the charts. Now, for James Van Riemsdyk, I think he and Ryan Callahan should switch places on the list. Nonetheless, Middletown, New Jersey, finally blossomed into a star forward that a lot of people were expecting him to become now that he's in Toronto. JVR is not the only. He's not only one of the best wingers on the Maple Leafs in Toronto, but I think he's a pretty good one all across the board. So, look, I put him in the top 5. I think Ryan Callahan really needs to get there before him. But nonetheless, Kevin Shatterkirk, New Rochelle, New York. I'll be there over the weekend. Please God, he's an elite puck-moving defenseman, and he's a top 3 in the United States at this position in terms of U.S.-born players at that position as a puck-moving defenseman. He is a big part of the Blues squad and probably will be a big part of the Blues squad that will likely contend for many, many years to come. And, of course, I think everybody agrees here that Patrick Kane of Buffalo, New York, the guy who put up 10 points when he played pickup hockey a couple nights ago with his old buddies in Buffalo. He is a top-tier player in the NHL, just about everything you want in a superstar forward, and he is one of the most dynamic wingers in the NHL. He's got scoring ability, he's got hands, and he can fly on the ice. It's all there. Of course, without a list like this would kind of fall by the wayside if we don't give some honorable mentions of Brandon Sutter of Huntington, New York, Lee Stempniak, Buffalo, New York as well, Kyle Palmieri, Smithtown, New York, Chris Higgins, also of Smithtown, and Eric Nystrom, my buddy, Syosset, New York. Sports Talk Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. 856-330-4749, or send me a message on Twitter at the Yossi G. Talking about Twitter, got to hear a comment about the Lakers. Of all places, really, the Lakers. It's Yossi. Oh, look at that. Yossi wants to know that despite the blanders and the glitz of L.A., how many more years do I think Kobe will stay? I like the rhyme. Kobe, he's going to be there until he says he wants to leave and until the Lakers actually rebuild. I think that's when Kobe goes. Pau Gasol's gone. Carmelo Anthony never wanted a real part of L.A. I really don't know how it's going to work. LA's plan B basically was Jordan Hill, Nick Young, taking on the expiring contract of Jeremy Lin. Carlos Boozer, but he's like way beyond help. And you have Carlos Boozer, you're not going to be able to develop Julius Randle. I really don't know what's going on in Lakerland. I think they have a lot of issues that they need to work out, especially when you consider who their neighbors are down the street, the LA Clippers, who seemingly have, besides for their ownership issues, everything kind of going for them at this point. Who would have thought that the change, the shift, the ocean moving so quickly would have happened in LA? By the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the LCG Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. That's it for me. Thanks to Scott Kennedy from Redskins247.com hopping on, and thank you to everybody who chimed in as well. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.